Hi everybody, welcome back to Everything Horror Podcast with your host Paul Doski.
And Tessa Baker.
And we are here interviewing a guy that is pretty much known in almost every goddamn thing out there. And whether it be in acting, producing, and writing, here is none other than Bill Oberst Jr.
Hey Paul, hey Tessa, good to be with you.
Good to have you with us, man, because to be honest and to be fair, I did want to try to get you onto the interview with Daniel, Megan, and Ryan for this day, but I know you were busy overseas or something.
With a movie.
Yeah, I think I was playing a Nazi in Germany, in Czech Republic.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where that image comes from.
Yeah, that's where that image comes from that he sent to you, that he showed you,
Yep.
that we could have used
Okay.
for the interview image.
Good. Alright, cool. Now that's out of the way. So Bill, for anybody that had maybe never heard of you, which surprisingly a lot of people who I've even asked over the week, because I was trying to maybe get different type of questions from different people, and they're just all like, I don't know who he is. And I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, have you ever seen like CBS's Criminal Minds or like anything horror or not horror related? No. No. Okay. Well then, yeah. So Bill, pretty much what I'm trying to say is, because I know you and me were talking about it via email, I'm pretty sure if you were to ever have a vacation here in Vermont, I'm pretty sure you could get away with not getting recognized.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm usually in makeup, and so I don't get recognized. And it's a really different world now. When I was growing up, there were 3 channels and there were movies at movie theaters. So if you were a movie star, everybody knew you. But now it's a niche world. So like with I don't know how many hundreds of channels there are, and then all the VOD platforms, everybody's got their own little niche, and people within that niche know you really well. So I can go to conventions and sign autographs, but people outside of that niche have no idea who you are. So
Right.
It's kind of weird. Yeah, but I never take offense. I'm happy to tell people, hey, I'm Bill, I'm an actor. And, I usually kill people, and if I don't kill people, I'm making them wish that I had killed them because I have that kind of face.
Which, yeah. I won't lie, you pull off a killer very good. And just to throw it out there, too, you make a great Abraham Lincoln, too. I'm like, he could actually pull off Abraham Lincoln really well.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. I really liked Lincoln. He was a great hero of mine, and I just lucked into that role. They had a Lincoln, and something happened between them and the Lincoln went away, and they'd already filmed one day. So the head of the Salem studios, David Lack, called me. It was 11 o'clock at night, and he said, can you get on a plane in the morning and go to Savannah and play Abraham Lincoln for 2 weeks?
Okay.
I said, well, David, I'm 5'9", and he said, we'll put you on a box, it's okay. And I said, I haven't seen the script, and he said, you can read it on the plane. And I said, well, I really sucked in your last movie that I did for you. He said, I know, but I really need you to do this. So I did.
Well, I wish he could joke around with that, I guess.
Well, from what we've seen of you in Abraham Lincoln vs. Zombies, I think that you did really well in that role, and I really, seeing you playing Abraham Lincoln, it made me believe that you were him. You were just so into it that, I actually was like, wow. I was like,
Thank you, Tessa.
I was like, he did so well with that.
I'm not a good actor. I'm a really horrible actor, but I'm pretty good at becoming another thing for a short time, but I'm not good at pretending. So all I can really do is just become something else, and that's what I tried to do, is just become Abraham Lincoln for a little while.
Yeah, even your accent when you were talking like him, the way that Abraham Lincoln talks, I was like, wow. I was like, I've been enjoying it so far. I think you did great, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I agree, but Bill, for what I was trying to say too before we got off track with all the cool stuff to talk about and whatever, but pretty much, would you mind telling a little bit about yourself for people can better understand you that don't know who you are?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm a middle-aged white guy, and I have acne scars, therefore I'm evil. Anybody knows who's ever watched television or movies that, if you're a pedophile priest, you have acne scars. If you're a pedophile of any kind, you have acne scars. Usually if you're a killer, you have a rough complexion. It's typecasting, but it's for a reason. It's because our brains we equate a rough outside with a rough inside. And so, it's easy storytelling to cast a guy like me as a killer or a psycho. That's usually what I play. If people know me, they probably know me as a killer on Criminal Minds. CBS ranked my killer among the top 15 killers of all time on the show. And the killer that I play is still at large. And a slew of independent horror movies like Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies, Scream Queens on TV. I usually play demons, killers, bad people, or people with real rough edges.
Although you did play as a sheriff in A Haunting in Salem.
Yes, you
I did play that's the movie that I was telling David Ladd I was really bad at. I think it was probably my least stellar performance. I did play a sheriff there. And I also do voiceover for children's movies. In fact, I'm just working on one today before you guys called, doing the voice of a mouse. So I do other stuff, and I've done some Hallmark movies. But the thing that people mostly will know me for, if they know me, is, oh, you're that killer guy.
Which, to be fair, the first time I've ever seen your acting was actually Haunted in Salem, and I'm like, I'm like, I gotta have to look this guy up because I'm impressed with his acting. And then, and then we saw Dick Day, and I'm like, wait a minute.
And then we saw Scream at the Devil.
Scream at the Devil. And I'm pretty sure there should have been one more I've seen with Bill in, and now I'm drawing a brain fart. But yeah, now we're watching Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies, so it's all fun and games. But, so, Bill, the first question is, what actors inspired you to want to start a career in acting?
I started my career in acting because I was really, really an unpopular kid. I couldn't throw football. I knew all the answers in school. I really liked school. I liked Sunday school. I was fat. I had bad acne even at an early age. So I was the fat kid, smart kid, ugly kid, and sissy kid all in one kid. And in those days, we didn't have the option of, being an asshole and talking back and getting dark and goth, because that didn't exist. So you had to find a way to stand out. So I started doing impressions of my teachers and principals, and I learned a really useful equation. If you entertain people, they will not hit you. And that became my whole career, was trying to get people not to hit me.
Nice.
So actors that inspired me, I've always liked Johnny Depp. I like everything that Johnny Depp has ever done. I like Harvey Keitel.
My hero.
I love Michael Caine. But in horror, the person who inspired me, I only knew for most of my youth through pictures, and that was Lon Chaney, Sr. I used to get a magazine. I lived for this magazine, Famous Monsters of Filmland. And when I would get my copy of Famous Monsters, the editor, Forrest Ackerman, he would write about all these great horror stars that I'd never seen the movies because we didn't have, VCRs or DVDs, and certainly not internet then. And so I would see pictures of this guy named Lon Chaney, who was Man of 1,000 Faces. And I tried to imitate him as a kid and recreate his makeups, and I was fascinated by him. So he's the one that really inspired me, because when he played a monster, you could see the humanity in it, and I really dig that. I like the idea of a monster that we have created by the way we've treated other people.
I like the idea of that. Yeah.
And I'm actually a huge fan of Johnny Depp, so I smiled when you said that.
Yeah.
Depp has the same thing. He can show you darkness, but there's also a humanity underneath it.
Yeah, I agree.
When I finally got to see the first horror film from that era that I ever got to see was an old print of Phantom of the Opera from 1925. The Masons at Halloween were showing some old films with some lady playing the piano, and I begged my grandmother to take me. And I saw this unmasking scene, famous unmasking scene of Lon Chaney in the silent movie. and something moved inside me, because what that original book and the 1925 movie had that the other adaptations have not. The Phantom, nobody threw acid in his face. There's no reason that he looks that way. He was born that way.
Yep.
He was born a freak. And so he came even freakier by the way that humanity treats him. And that's the way we treat people who are different.
Yep.
We turn them into freaks. And he's an extreme case of a freak who turned freaky back on you. And in my little mind, because I felt like kind of a monster then, I really, really identified with that. And that's the kind of monster that I love the most.
Yeah, that's a very good take. Phantom of the Opera has always been one of my old favorites, of course, especially the Universal monster one. Universal Studio monster of Phantom of the Opera. But, and then you got that other one that, what was that? Was that 1999 or 2000 when that other one came out? The one that's not so creepy, but they tried to make it creepy.
Are you talking about the one with Gerard Butler in it?
I believe so.
They've done multiple versions of the Phantom of the Opera. They've done a Broadway version of it. I went and saw one at Proctor's in New York, or the Palace Theater. Like, they've done multiple versions of it, and it's beautiful no matter how you see it, because Phantom of the Opera has always been a favorite of mine too.
Well,
and you know the attraction of that story is Beauty and the Beast. And that's sort of the archetype that gets played out in most of the movies that I've been in. I'm the Beast, and there's always sort of this virginal girl who has to go through this encounter with the Beast, and the Beast dies, and at the end the girl is still the girl, but she's changed. She's a little stronger now. That's like a very ancient campfire story that we're still telling through horror movies.
That is true. That's how we build people to become, or women to be stronger too, because they first start off being weak, and they're like, oh no, I can't do this, and then they somehow, like, you know,
they go through a hardship.
Yeah, that beast ignites a fire, and then next thing you know, they're just like, I'm taking you out, beast, and yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you get Sigourney Weaver, get away from her, you bitch, you know, and then it's like, yeah.
Which, oh god, people need to just, I'm just gonna say it, people just need to just like do maybe one more Alien film, and that way it finishes up this new trilogy that Ridley Scott is ruining and people are not liking or are liking, and then they just need to just probably just let it be. I think Alien done its course, because clearly
you're right, man, but they ain't gonna let anything be.
No.
Because everybody in entertainment is really frightened now, because it's so fragmented. So anything that millions of people know, it's going to get made over and over
again.
I'm sure that at corporate meetings, I'm sure they say, what property do we have option that people know? We've got, Dilbert. Okay, make a Dilbert movie, but we already made one. Make another one.
Yeah.
This is where you get the endless reboots.
Well, what's really funny is I listened to this other podcast about, like, the Alien film. It's called Perfect Organism Podcast, which they do a really good job, but the amount of time they start to talk about how Covenant is, like, bad and blah, 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 it just, you know, it brings me down to the point where the listener, I just want to unfollow the podcast, because it's just like, okay, well, can we just at least say why it's good, instead of just saying, oh, they should have done something different. Oh, they should have did this and that. It's just like, all right, how about we just let Ridley Scott do this one last film that he supposedly needs to do, because of, according to him, it's a trilogy.
Questions.
Yeah, which, if anybody doesn't know, like Bill, I don't know if you read anything on it, but supposedly the next title of the Alien film is called Alien Awakening, and we're supposed to maybe see that next year or 2019. I don't know anymore. Anyway, the idea though is just that people are now bitching about Ridley Scott taking the role in writing in the films now, so they're kind of blaming it on Ridley, which I kind of see it because that guy does change his ideas like almost every 10 minutes. So it is hard to make a good movie. But if anything, they should at least pick a writer or two writers, and then that's it. And then Ridley Scott should just direct the whole thing because he's very good with creating the world around it.
Well, I'm just gonna say this. I think certain movies should be left as classics and not remade, because classics never go out of style. And when people like take a classic and they remake it over and over and over again, it loses its luster after a while. And also another thing, people really need to start coming up with like more original ideas for movies instead of constantly remaking others. Like,
And Tessa, you're right, and they are never going to listen to you because when I say they, I mean in my experience, the big producers, I mean the ones with real money, not the indie people, but the people who can easily say 70 million, sure, let's do it. What they care about is how many people already know that product. And it's really sad.
It is.
Because, like, the first Freddy movie, that was an original idea. Nobody had ever done it. And it was great and frightening. And I don't know if it could get made today because it was a brand new idea.
Well, they did try to remake that.
yeah, and it did
Yeah, but it
horribly.
wasn't an original idea anymore.
No.
All you got is, oh, well, how will it compare to the original? Screw that.
Yeah.
I'm with Tessa. Let it be. Make something new.
Yeah, me and Tessa sat down and did an episode, and we called it "What the Fuck." What was that? Horror? What the fuck happened, or something like
horror,
that.
What the fuck
And
happened?
we were pretty much going back and forth about classics getting ruined because they can't think of anything new.
Yeah, so disappointing. And I think one of the things that we did talk about was the fact that they did try to remake Nightmare on Elm Street with the guy that played as Rorschach in The Watchmen, and it did so horrible that even
Robert
Englund
Englund left the theater.
himself got up in the middle of the thing and left, like walked out.
Yep.
When, for an actor, that's a no-win situation. Yeah, you're going to make a lot of money, but you're going to be compared to something someone else has done.
Yep.
It's a horrible situation, for Jackie Earle Haley. He did as good a job as anybody could have done.
Agreed.
But there was no way that he was going to do a performance. Everybody was going to say, wow, you've redefined the role.
Yeah. Yeah. They made it more, from what I understood, they made it more of the original concept that they couldn't really do in the actual original that we got, or something like that. Because, like, okay, so what I'm trying to say is, like, in the first one, we got Freddy, who is, just pretty much a maniac, and because of his dark past from the mother and the town and everything else. But then in this,
He was a child. He was a pedophile.
yeah,
child
now I'm
killer.
Now I'm hearing and stuff that he's a pedophile in the remake or whatever you want to call it, and it's just like, no, and this is not Freddy to me. Even though it's just like, yeah, that was the original idea, and I'm like, it can't be because it just doesn't work, in my own opinion.
That's the problem with remakes is you've got to think, okay, how can we make it different? Well, if you have a perfect wedding and somebody says, hey, let's reboot your wedding, how can we make it even better? You can't make it better. It was already perfect. Leave it alone.
Agreed. That's kind of like when I heard Poltergeist got remade. I was like, no. Oh man, I still remember watching that first trailer when the clown attacks the boy, and I'm just like, they've already ruined this movie for me. I am not watching it. And then I see nothing but horrible things about this remade Poltergeist movie, and I'm like, good. Hopefully it kind of sends like a message, but it clearly has not in the horror genre.
Yeah, like there's certain movies that you just don't remake, and like Nightmare on Elm Street, where you have Robert Englund playing as Freddy, he is Freddy. You should just leave that whole franchise alone, because there's only certain actors that can embody that character, and to me, Robert Englund has always been Freddy. And, just like Poltergeist, they should have left Poltergeist alone, because, you know, Poltergeist was already great, awesome, as it was as an original. And then they come in with a remake, and I'm just like, no.
And we're speaking as fans of horror, but I can tell you from experience that the higher up you go in the business and the more money people have, generally the less they care about what the fans want. They don't care. They want a big opening weekend, and I'll make the money internationally. And the quality of the movie, sometimes it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. I definitely can see that as well. I mean, look at it, like Alien with Ridley Scott. He trying to tell his own story while other people are trying to tell a story as well. So it doesn't really work out. So, and then you got like where Ridley Scott just directed The Martian, which he didn't take any role in writing that at all. And look at that movie, how that ended up. That was phenomenal. That was probably one of the best non-horror, well, sci-fi, I should say, movie I've seen in a long time that actually does very well with story, rather than it, you know, you get thrown like one part of a story, then you get thrown another part, and it's just like, whoa, what is going on here? Because now I'm more confused, because now it seems like they want to make maybe a prequel or sequel to this that's going to have to answer more, but maybe they won't be able to, because what if the movie just completely goes downhill? It doesn't make the amount of money for it that it needs, and it's just like, I don't know how I can get into this. And that's kind of like, I was all excited with the new Friday the 13th movie, because it's from the way they had it, it sounded like an original idea. It was going to be the younger version of Jason Voorhees' mother, and that was pretty much going to go around killing everybody, from what I understand of the story. Pretty much how Jason Voorhees died, and how the mother went on her revenge for the campers killing her son. And then Rings came out that following weekend or whatever, and completely didn't make anything on opening weekend, and because of that they ended up canning Friday the 13th, and now we probably won't be seeing another Friday the 13th attempt for a movie until like 2019. So it sucks kind of being a horror guy, just like it was kind of sad to be a horror guy almost 3 years ago when horror genre was not doing so well at all. So, I don't know. It's just...
I would like to say to your listeners that there's a lot of fantastic independent horror that is out there, but we're in a celebrity culture. And the first question that people ask is, who's in it? Who made it? Is it a director I've heard of? Is it an actor that everyone knows? Well, the answer in indie horror to those questions is usually going to be, no, you haven't heard, but you should take a chance, and you should support these movies and watch them. Because generally, independent horror is much closer to what I think horror is than the stuff that comes out of big Hollywood. But fans have to take a chance on it and support it in order for it to thrive. That's my whole business is, well, I mean, the catchphrase is movies you've never heard of. Because most people generally, if you walk up to them on the street and you say, you know, Abraham Lincoln versus Zombie, never heard of it. Right. But these movies make money. They do really well because there are people who are willing to seek out independent horror.
I agree with that. I usually try to look for the indie movies anyway more than the big movies anyway, but unfortunately I do like my bigger Hollywood budget movies too, but I do tend to find myself liking more indie than I do Hollywood. Like a couple of my favorite ones is like Dead Snow, Martyrs. I don't know if you ever heard of like Cold Prey, but I mean that's just a few. Oh, and I can't forget the Spanish version of what people may know of Quarantine, but the original is actually called Rec, R-E-C, which that's really good. And I mean, I remember seeing Quarantine, and I'm just like, like, okay, it's pretty much shot by shot, so whatever, and then they just made it a little bit darker. And then Quarantine, the Terminal comes out, and it's just like, what is this? And then you go and watch Rec 2, and it's something completely different. So, I don't even like that sometimes, too. Like, where the U.S. has to take something from, like, overseas and try to make a U.S. version out of it. I really don't like that. Like, Martyrs is a good example. Like, Martyrs is a French film. Very, very well done. Like, I still remember the first day I brought it home after purchasing it. And I even told my own mother to shut up because I was so, like, zoomed in to the TV because I couldn't stop watching. Like, I had to keep focused. And, of course, I apologized to my mother, but then the U.S. made a remake of Martyrs, and I don't even know what to think of it. It's just not even that, like, good, I guess. I don't know. I'm just ashamed with what the U.S. does to some of the foreign movies that just need to be left alone. Kind of like our classic horror films. They just need to be left alone. But, and anyway, we're getting way off here, but that's okay. But, going back, Bill, to about, like, who inspired you, but did you take any classes or lessons to act, or was it just mainly like what you were saying earlier, just, imitating other people kind of thing?
No, I have zero training. Because when I was a kid, being an actor wasn't considered a viable career path, and nobody encouraged me to do it. So I went to college, and I took what was called journalism school, J school, which was, you take acting courses, but also you're learning to be like a TV broadcaster in case that doesn't work out. That was always the thought. And so, when I started out on the stage, I did 16 years of stage. And I learned how to do it by doing it and by failing. And then, by mistake almost, I stumbled into doing movies and TV 8 years ago. Moved out to LA and did that. And I've never had time to take any classes because I've always been working. My theory, and I tell young actors this, classes are cool, but they're not an excuse for actually being there and being on set. The only way you're ever going to learn to do anything is to make your mistakes. And you've got to get in there and just start doing it. The main qualification for being an actor is being willing to make a fool out of yourself.
Now, does that also go with, it also depends on, like, the director, of how the director wants things done, too? Like, you know what I'm trying to get at? Like, if a director trying to tell you they want one thing, but maybe, like, you try to do it another way, I guess, but maybe at the same time you're trying to not make a fool of yourself, but you are making a fool of yourself. Like, do you feel...
You have to be willing to make a complete fool of yourself by making a choice. I once made a choice in a scene, and the director afterwards said, "Bill, I think that was probably the boldest choice I've ever seen an actor make. I hate it, but I'm really glad that you made it. Now let's do it this way." And it taught me a lesson that it's okay to fail because you've got another take. But if you're holding back, or you're thinking, wow, I'm really trying to please everybody here, you have to go with your instincts, recognize that the director is the boss. But a lot of young actors don't realize this. A director doesn't want a robot. They didn't hire you to do exactly what they say every time, because sometimes they don't know what they want. Many times we'll do 5 takes and a director will say, just try something different. Do something else. And you reach down into yourself. So if all you know is, I'm going to do exactly what the director says, and the director says, do something different, you're screwed. So yeah, you just have to be willing to put yourself on the line. And some people like what you do and some will hate it. And that's when the movie comes out, there'll be reviews. And the same movie, there's a movie out now called Circus of the Dead that I'm in. I play a necrophiliac clown who murders people in a circus.
Nice.
And many reviews really love it. But there are a couple of them who don't. And they're just as vehement as the people who do. So you just have to be willing to put it out there and then let people make what they want of it.
And that's called what again, Bill? Circus of the Dead?
Circus of the Dead. It is certainly the most disturbing horror film I've ever done. I can't watch it again. I watched it once. It was a rainy afternoon. I watched it in my apartment in Hollywood. And I turned it off and I needed to go outside even though it was raining. I just needed to see skies and trees to remind myself that the world was not a murderous place. It affected me even though I was in it. And it's very disturbing.
We'll have to look for it. Because Martyrs is pretty disturbing too. Like, I remember a friend of mine who wanted to borrow it because usually me and him go back and forth between movies of what we hate and what we like, and I actually could not think of a word to say to him for like 3 days because I was absorbing Martyrs because it was really a film and for me that I haven't really seen. So it's just like, wow, like, what the hell did I just watch? But one thing I was able to tell my friend is, because he was seeing someone too, and I'm like, okay, dude, if you're going to borrow this from me, this is what I need you to do right now. First off, I need you to tell her that this is going to be very, very disturbing towards female because there's a 10-minute beating in it. But unfortunately, like, the 10-minute beating of the female and like what she's going through is pretty much the outcome of the story as well, because you're watching them create a martyr, which is like a rare I forget the word they use, rare like species, I'll say for lack of a word, but out of for people, because some people can't trigger this martyr where pretty much they're like so close to death but they don't die, and they can like see a vision and then they come back into the real world kind of thing. Like they can almost see like the afterlife is what I'm trying to say. And then when they come back from their vision, they can tell the host or leader what they saw. It's pretty much the beyond the movie. But I mean, that's not really all of it too. There's more to it than that. So, but that would be like my disturbing movie. Tessa, what about you? What would be your most disturbing movie you've ever seen?
Martyrs.
Yeah, see.
Martyrs, definitely.
I would like to recommend to your listeners a micro-budget film, which is a mix of art house and horror. It's called Coyote, and it's done by a young director who usually does art house films in St. Louis. His name is Trevor Yinger, and he asked me to do this film with him. We had virtually no money, and we just went out into the woods and made this very, very, very strange film. It's about a writer who can't sleep, and he comes to believe that if he falls asleep, he's going to die. And so most of what happens in the movie, you don't know if it's real or if it's his hallucinations. And when we finished it, Trevor wrote me and he said, I'm editing this movie. No one is going to want to watch this movie because it makes you feel like you're inside the head of a mentally ill person. Oh, and I said, Trevor, are you crazy? Horror fans will really, really like this because he usually does art house. And that's indeed, it does make you feel, was what I just watched real at all? Am I sane? I've had people who wrote reviews have said, this movie made me question my sanity.
Yeah.
So I think that's a thing that indie horror can do, but big Hollywood is really afraid to do that. If you went into, a big corporation and said, I want to make a movie that makes people wonder if they're sane, it'd be like, I don't know, man, that doesn't sound that marketable.
That is, yeah, that is true. And then nowadays, with some of the stuff that does come out of Hollywood, I'm kind of wondering how he even got into Hollywood to begin with. But I guess that's a different story. Tessa.
Bill, what got you into the horror genre?
I've always loved horror. As a kid, I never ever imagined I would act in it. For 16 years, I did stage on the East Coast, and I did historical things. I did comedy. I did musical comedy, and I never did anything. I was never frightened at all. And then I got this role in a Civil War docudrama about General Sherman of the Civil War, and I played General Sherman. It's called Sherman's March. So I won some awards, and the Wall Street Journal wrote about it, and I figured, well, let me go to L.A. and see if I can get an agent. So I went out there and got an agent, and she started sending me out for historical things and for soccer dads and stuff like that. And I quickly learned that my face registers on camera as being very malevolent. I went out for a soccer dad role, and I had one casting director say, "You look like the soccer dad is going to kill the team and eat them." So so we switched, and I started rebranding myself as the guy with the disturbing eyes and going out for horror movies. And the more I did, and the more I worked, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know. But I was starving. That's what really, really caused me to go into horror, was that I was absolutely starving in Hollywood, and then it clicked. Sometimes the camera likes to see you do a certain thing, and for me, the camera likes to see me threaten people, or worse.
Yeah. I definitely have seen just enough film to make it realize that, yeah, you make a better villain than you probably do, like, a normal human being, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which, like what you were saying, the camera catches what you're good at, even though that's not exactly what you said, but in the way, yeah, that does make sense. Certain people do shine better doing certain things rather than another, a different way, I guess I'll say. Like in your case, you going around threatening people and killing people is definitely who you are, or as an actor.
And in L.A., you know, Paul, casting directors are very busy. Life moves very quickly. And so if they can say, I need a creepy guy, give me the 5 best creepy guys in town. Well, if you could be among those people who are immediately thought of, you're going to get into the room. Whereas if you're just a versatile actor who does a little bit of everything, they're never going to know you exist.
That's true. That is true.
What would be your top 3 horror films that you like?
Oh my gosh, I'm such a horror fan. That is so hard. But The Exorcist has to be number 1 of all time. And I would put Todd Browning's Freaks from 1931 up there. From there, I go to all of the Vincent Price movies he did with Roger Corman, the 31 Frankenstein, the 21 Phantom, the 25 Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney. Anything that has to do with good versus evil, I'm really, really all about, which is why The Exorcist tops it for me, because it was a battle between good and evil, and it was a constant tension. I think that's what makes a great horror movie. When you have a horror movie that's nothing but evil, and I've seen those where, you know, evil wins from the beginning and evil wins at the end, it's boring to me. And it's not only boring, it's not really reflective of what I think life is. Horror is about facing death, and there's that tension all the time there. There should be a tension between good and evil.
I do like that. And I'm trying to think if I've seen any films that have horror at the beginning and horror at the end, but right now I'm definitely drawing a blank. I don't think I've seen one like that. Or if I have, maybe I fell asleep during it sometimes, because some movies just make me just nudge out. Like, there's a film called Nightmare Man. That was, I believe it was a UK film. It was part of the 8 Films to Die For.
Yeah.
And that put me to sleep. The editing alone was just so bad. And and the story and stuff was just not there. Maybe I blame the acting too, but the editing definitely killed it for me. And I just always remember falling asleep on that film. I try to tell people, I was like, if you go and want to watch this film called Nightmare Man, you might need to get stoned and drunk or both, maybe in order to watch it, because I don't really know how else you're gonna sit through it. But
Black Sunday with Barbara Steele is a great movie. I like a lot of the Italian horror that was coming out in the '60s. A lot of the black and white, late period black and white horror. Psychological horror to me is more frightening than just somebody with a weapon. I like to have a little psychological aspect.
Yeah, we just watched a black and white movie. When was it? Like 2 months ago, maybe, called "The Eyes of the Mother."
Yeah.
Mm.
That was actually really good.
Yeah.
Like,
very interesting.
Like, I'm trying to remember the female daughter in the film got brought up watching death around her to the point where she became obsessed with kind of doing torture to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that she would even go out of the way to try to, quote, start a family, end quote. So, what I mean by that is, she was walking on the road one day, or one of the times, and this nice lady went and picked her up with a child, maybe a 6-month-old child, and then the lady wanted to hold the baby, but the driver was trying to say, oh, but we need to get going, yada yada, and she's like, well, it'll only be for a second. Well, that second turned into her snatching the baby away from the actual mother and running off. But then, you pretty much should know what's about to happen. The mother gets kidnapped by the crazy one and, yeah, gets tortured.
Yeah.
That was really weird, but it was also very well done. Another favorite silent, since we're talking about silent black and white, or not really silent, but I'm just going to say it anyway, but one of my favorite black and white and silent films is Nosferatu.
Absolutely.
And I actually just watched it in color, even though it's not black and white, but still, even with the way they did the color for the version that I have, it helped, I guess. It actually helped you have a better understanding of when is exactly morning and when it's actually night. And I think the bluish color that they use to represent nighttime, really helped that film, especially that famous scene where Nosferatu's shadow is going up the stairs. That scene right there was just oh my god. This blue background overlay, it's definitely amazing for it.
Absolutely.
Tessa, do you have any favorite black and white?
I have one of my favorite black and white films besides Nosferatu would be Night of the Living Dead.
Oh yeah, that's another good one.
Yeah, that's definitely a favorite of mine. You'll never forget that line where Barbara's brother is stalking her in the cemetery. They're coming to get you, Barbara. They're coming for you, Barbara. And she's freaking out, telling him to shut up and everything. Stop that.
Yeah, that's another classic too, which I really hope they leave that one alone too, one day. So, Bill, this next question is actually from a guy that I'm going to be interviewing in a couple of weeks. The guy's name is Don from Enix Studio. He's actually working on a horror game that we are going to be interviewing him about, because I believe it's also his first game for the studio that he's in. And it sounds really interesting, and it's for virtual reality, but it's called A Haunting Witching Hour. And Don's question to you, Bill, was how hard was it in the beginning did you ever consider quitting? And if so, what changed your mind to keep going?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Acting is, I don't know if it's the hardest profession to make a living in, but it's got to be up there. On stage and on film, it's hellishly hard to make a living. The only way you would ever want to do it is if you really feel that there's nothing else you can do in life and be happy. So the answer is yes, yes, and yes. Even people go through phases in their career. You know, if you get trapped into the being famous thing and you get to be a little bit famous, then that's going to pass. It doesn't last unless you're, you know, one of the very, very few A-listers. And so people go through periods of fame, and then when they're not famous, they're trying to recapture the fame. And so even if you're working, it's not enough because it's not as big as it was before. It's hard, and it's a hard profession in every way. I wouldn't recommend anybody to go into it. But the thing that has kept me doing it is I love it, and I think that God has called me to do it, and I say that because A, I believe in God, and B, it's the only thing I've ever been happy doing. So I take that as a gift from him, and I have to do it. There's nothing else that I can do. When I stop doing it, one day eventually I'll die. I would be okay if I died while doing it.
Fair question. Fair enough answer. And, I mean, I think everything you do, really, as long as you love it, you're going to find that hidden strength to just keep going with it. And that's really all that matters, I think.
That's right. And, you know, there are some actors who are like, oh, I really, really love the craft of acting. That's what I really get off on is entertaining people. I like the thought that people who might have had a really hard day might watch something, a play or a movie or something I'm in, and they might for a little while forget how hard their life is and be entertained. That's what I really, really like the most about this profession is entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, like you said and stuff like that. I mean, as long as you enjoy what you do and you believe that is what you were meant to be doing is entertaining people, and I can definitely see that with something like, I mean, I haven't seen much of the films that you've been in, but I mean, I think I've kind of seen quite enough to say, yeah, you get into character very well, and I think you can pull off pretty much anything, Bill, to be honest. I mean, as long as you got that mindset of how the character should be and you're experimenting with doing certain scenes, I guess, I think you can pretty much become anybody in anything, really, to be, in my own opinion.
Well, you know, thank you for that. I've just started incorporating horror into my stage work, too. I tour now with a piece by Ray Bradbury, one of his early short stories, the original zombie story, in fact, from 1947. It's called Pillar of Fire. And I play this resurrected dead man on stage in this piece. And it helped me to reconnect with Ray Bradbury, who I loved when I was a kid. And I mention all this because what you said about loving what you do.
Yeah.
Rick said, love what you do and do what you love. And if you don't love a thing, stop doing it. And that sounds incredibly simplistic, and there's a million excuses that instantly come to mind. Well, I can't. But essentially, he's right. If you don't love doing a thing, find a way to either love it or stop doing it. Because it's not healthy to continually do things for which you have no love and no passion. Because then you're just going to be a graceless, mean, bitter person. And Lord knows we have enough of those in the world.
That is true. Yeah, I almost feel like we almost live in a world with nothing but hatred lately, so, and it's not like we don't get enough seeing it and hearing about it, because all we got to do is just turn on the news, and there you go. Then we can really see how disturbing the world really is, and what's more disturbing about it is that what is the news not even telling us, so, which makes it even more disturbing. But for what I love to do besides this podcast, Tessa, well, I used to write poetry a lot. I don't really much anymore because I feel like I don't know, maybe I'm like need to get more inspired with certain things and whatnot, but I mean, I still remember when I first had the idea of publishing a book, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe one day, and you know, here I am now, 2017, and I have technically 3 books out, and one is actually a collection where all 3 of my books are in one, plus you get like a bonus chapter and a bonus biography that helps continue my first book's biography about me. So you really get to learn who I am, mostly from my lyrics or poetry, because I like to write about my experiences from growing up and what I see through the world today, and like everything else that I can think of. Like my friend just interviewed us the other day, and I was telling him, you know, I used to write about how I hated everything about me, like how I just wanted to die and all this other stuff, and then I somehow got to a point in 2007 where I'm just like, you know, I need to change my writings. I need to focus on bettering other people. I need to make it so that it reflects me, but it also gives hope to those that have felt the same and have gone through the same stuff as me as well. To show them that as long as you are still fighting and breathing, you can pretty much get through it, everything that comes your way.
That's beautiful, Paul, and I think hope is the main thing that the world needs. It's life without hope is meaningless. That's beautiful.
Thank you. And Tessa, before me and her actually got together, we spent 6 months help me out here.
Spent 6 months getting to know each other better and bonding, and we became best friends. We found that we were in each other's heads
a
lot, and we could finish each other's sentences, and we pretty much had the same ideas about things, and we had a similar mindset to one another, and we just vibed really well together.
Yeah, and on top of that too, I would sometimes look at Tessa's post that she would do from her poetry that she does, and I'm like, you know, you write really good to the point where you should have your own book as well. And she's like, well, yeah, well, I don't know. I'm like, look, I'll help you. I'll help you publish it, because I published mine on my own. I went with a self-publishing thing, because everybody knows that if you try to give your work away, it's no longer your work. So, and you usually don't really have control over or own your stuff anymore, because they own it. So I tried to do my best to stay away from publishers and agents and stuff that kind of wanted to take my work and turn it into something else, which I did have many phone calls about. And like, I still remember this one phone call to today, which was, my third book is called Enemy of Everything, but the cover is, I'm wearing like a bloodied white shirt. It just zoomed in on my chest where you can see like the bloodiness.
The blood stains.
The blood stains and stuff. And he was trying to ask me what that represents and why it should be changed and stuff. And I told him, I said, that bloody shirt represents everything that I've gone through, every battle, any demon that I have fought, everything. And it pretty much represents that no matter what, I always come out of it coming out strong. Even though, yes, they will tear me down, but I will always come up strong. And it will be bloody.
Why don't you tell Bill why you like my writing so much, and why you really encouraged me to do a book? What was it you liked about
her
it?
writing is very different than mine. Mine is more dark and somewhat depressing, because that's just who I am. I mean, I was the bullied kid back in my middle school days, where I was the different kid because I couldn't talk right, and I wore an FM unit so I could hear the teacher speak and stuff like that. And then when I look at Tessa's writing, it's pretty much the stuff that I can't really write, which is like more of a light in the darkness type thing, where she brings out the light in people or herself and within her words. And I think Tessa can help me describe more of her writing because she's pretty much a mastermind.
My writing is like what Paul says, like we're more of like the yin and the yang to each other. He's more of the darker aspect, and I'm more of the light, the hope. And his writing shows the struggles that he's gone through, everything he's been through, the battles he's faced. And then you have mine, where I show a different perspective on going through battles, and despite it, I'm still hopeful. Like, I don't let anything extinguish that light. If anything, everything that I've been through, it makes the light or the hope in me burn brighter. So I try to reflect that in the way that I write. And my writing is sometimes it's very emotional. It's meant to touch your heart. It's meant to tug at your heartstrings. I'm sometimes better at expressing emotion, like more like love and things than darkness, but I'm also learning to accept both the light and the dark that is within us all, and that's actually being reflected more in my second book that I'm working on.
That's tremendous.
And Bill, I know you write, so I did want to ask you that I did read, I think, an article the other day. Maybe this might be another article, but you can help me out too. But you ended up reading a piece of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, I think it was, out loud.
Yeah, it was for a podcast. A friend of mine named Reed Lackey, who's a minister actually, and he's also a big horror fan. And he wanted to examine some Edgar Allan Poe, so he asked me to do a reading of The Raven, which I did, and I enjoy doing. I do audiobook narration, and sometimes that includes poetry.
That's awesome. And do you write or have anything out of your own that you have written?
I write mostly nonfiction. I write essays. I really, really love the essay form. If people want to see a sample, they can go to my Twitter or to my Facebook, which is my name, Bill Oberst Jr. And there's a piece that I just wrote for Medium.com, which is founded by the guy who started Twitter, and he started this place called Medium, which has a lot of different articles. But I wrote an article on the use of the F word, what I think is the overuse of the F word in movie scripts. And so they'll see there's a link to that on my Facebook page and my Twitter. So that's what I usually write. I love to analyze. I love ideas, and my favorite writing tends to be nonfiction.
Nice. So the next question would be, Bill, what film would you say is the least favorite? Like you wish you pushed yourself more, like you acted a little bit more for it or something.
For me personally, that would be The Haunting in Salem. It's one of 4 Asylum films that I've done. And I would say that because Haunting in Salem came at a time when I was really becoming like the indie horror guy, the go-to horror guy. I was doing like 12, 13 movies a year. And so this guy, my character, was a family man. He was a hero in a haunted house. And he was a hero sheriff. And I don't usually get hero roles. So I was bound and determined that I was going to be a straight arrow hero. Well, they ended up, I think I was close to 50 at the time, and they ended up casting someone as my wife who was significantly younger. So the mix-up, the match-up there was odd, so I was obsessed also with trying to be very youthful. So I was very concerned about my makeup and my hair. And that plus trying to be my idea of heroic ended up with what I thought was a really stilted performance. And for that reason, it's not my favorite. In fact, it probably is my least favorite film performance. The lesson being, you have to be who you are, and you can't be trying to fit into a box that you really don't fit into. I was so careful about my hair in that movie, because I thought it would make me look younger. And one of the reviews said that I looked like a mummy in a Justin Bieber wig, which I thought was a really, really great line. And so, yeah, it taught me to be who I am and embrace who I am. And the movie I did after that was called Children of Sorrow. I played a cult leader. And I threw myself so completely into that role that I didn't speak to anybody outside of the set. I just cut off all communication while we shot it. I dived completely into the role. And it's one of the performances that I'm most satisfied with. So, yeah, that's the moral. You got to be who you are.
Yeah, and that kind of reminded me, what you just said there reminded me of a guy that played Jason for Friday the 13th, which I think it was part 2. The guy completely ignored everybody. So
Sat
that,
by himself, isolated himself.
Yeah, he isolated himself so that way he could be
Stay in character.
Jason. And like what you were saying, and it sounds like it really does help, because why would you want to be filming a bad guy or being a villain where you're like dancing and like joking and laughing, trying to kill the person kind of thing? Like, yeah, I mean...
But a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
A lot of people, particularly smartphones, have really, really changed acting.
Oh,
movies,
God, yeah.
Because everybody is always on their phone. For me personally, I found that if I'm on my phone right before the take, I'm not in the world I need to be in, so I just have to shut the damn thing off. But I've seen people who can, right up to the moment of the take, be texting. Dakota Fanning's one of them. And she's a wonderful actress. But I had her in a police car with Jennifer Hudson tied up in the back, and, I got to shove Dakota Fanning out of the car, and she has to cry. And right up until the second they called action, she was texting, and then she slips the phone underneath the blanket, and she cries real tears. I mean, she's tremendous, but I can't do it. So I have to have that isolation. And since the experience of Haunting in Salem, since Children in Sorrow following it did so well, that's the way I work now. I always isolate myself.
That's good. That's probably the best thing to do anyway. And I mean, I'm not saying that with just like everybody, because I mean, everybody works differently and can, I guess, get into character many different ways anyway. But in this case, yeah, it would be nice to be isolated that way, and you can always be in that character, even though you gotta remember, like, okay, this is just not real, and I gotta get back into the real world type deal. So the mindset. Yeah. So I think that's actually something we were gonna ask you anyway. Yeah, we did, but that's later on. But I'll let you take the next question. 7.
What would be your favorite film that you acted in?
That's an easy question, and it's not a horror movie. It's called The Retrieval, and it's a coming-of-age movie, and it's set in the last days of the Civil War. It has a largely African-American cast. It's about a young African-American boy who has to make the choice of his life. And I play a slave bounty hunter, and it's won just about every award that an independent film can win. Reviews in the New York Times, and just, 5-star review after 5-star review. It's the most honest story I've ever been in, and I think the most meaningful story. That's the answer. It's a film called The Retrieval.
We'll have to look at that too.
Yes, we will. What was it like to play as Abraham Lincoln killing zombies?
was wonderful to play Abraham Lincoln. It was strange to play him killing zombies. But the director, Richard Shinkman, really helped me out. I said, what kind of Lincoln do you want? You know, hoping against hope that he wouldn't want kind of a parody of Lincoln. And he said, I want the Lincoln on the penny. I want the real Abraham Lincoln. And I want Lincoln. And, oh, incidentally, he happens to be fighting zombies. But I want him to be fighting zombies just the same way that he would be if he were just, you know, fighting Confederates. And so that helped me a lot. He's still Lincoln. The only weird thing was swinging the sight. That was Richard's idea, to have this cool sight that he could just whip out of nowhere. And I broke 3 of them. There were only 4 of those props made, and I broke 3 of them. And I broke them by too aggressively swinging it backwards. Because if you look at the thing, you can see that in real life, you'd have to have a hell of a bolt on the top of that thing, because the blade, the weight of the blade will just pull the blade off when you rip it out of your pocket and throw it back behind your head.
Yep.
That's what happened for 3 times. 2 times it did that, and once I broke it on a little zombie girl's arm, because she put her arm up and it was a prop, you know, so it broke. So, but it was very, very cool to play Abraham Lincoln. And once we settled that he was still Abraham Lincoln, even though he was killing zombies, it was a lot of fun. I only did 1 ad lib that was out of period, and that was just to make the crew laugh. When I was getting ready to kill one of the zombies, I said, "Emancipate this." And the crew laughed, and so they said, let's just shoot that once. So they shot it, and then damned it, the editor didn't keep it in.
Nice. Yeah, I remember seeing that one first on Netflix like a while ago. I never got around to see it, unfortunately, until now. Like, before this interview, we started watching it, and we're 42 minutes into it right now, and we're both enjoying it. But one of the other things that I thought was interesting is that other Abraham Lincoln one. It's Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire Hunter. Now,
yes.
I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see that one, Bill.
Oh, of course, yeah. That was the whole reason Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies was made. There were 3 Lincolns out that year. There was Benjamin Walker as Lincoln, and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and of course Daniel Day-Lewis and Spielberg's Lincoln, and then mine. So the Asylum, being the Asylum, they said theirs to come out 30 with a very similar name, 30 days before Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So
okay.
it made a lot of money because of that. But I saw Vampire Hunter, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was unique and weird at the same time. So, but, I mean, I have the book too, which, as many people can probably say, books are 10 times more better than an actual movie, because we all know a movie can only fit so much into it as well, unless you got a pretty good budget film, like Hollywood.
That's very true. Even something like Dracula,
yes.
Which is a long read and a difficult read because it's mostly letters back and forth, but it's one of the creepiest things you'll ever read if you actually get into it and take the time to do it. And there's no Dracula film that was ever as frightening as the book and its frightening parts. So I agree with you.
Yeah. Did you ever see or read Vampire Hunter?
You're asking Tessa, sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're all good, Bill, but...
Yeah, I've seen it. It's been a while since I've watched it, but yes, I have seen it. I did like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, Bill, what were you saying? Yeah, you did see it, but did you enjoy it, or did you prefer...
No, I didn't enjoy it because I'm kind of over CGI, because being in the business, when you know how things are done,
CG.
It really takes away from when you work in front of a green screen enough. When you see a green screen shot in a movie, it instantly takes you back to work, because you think, I know how they did this. They had to adjust the lights on the green screen, and this and this and this. To me, personally, I love a small practical effect much, much better than a green screen. So, I don't need all of that to say, wow, look at that.
Yeah, we're more of a practical effects
I was just going to say,
anyways.
we don't really see
CGI.
too much practical effects anymore, because people would rather go the CGI way nowadays. But
yeah,
and it sucks because once again, I'm going to go back to it, is the new Alien. They were saying we were going to see a lot more practical effects in it, and no, we didn't. We saw a lot more CGI, if anything. So that kind of bugged the crap out of me, because they ended up making this suit for the alien for the movie, but I guess they never actually used it. So why build a suit then if you're not going to use it? But I can't remember what they did with the suit now, but I guess they used it for like a photo shoot or something for like a horror scare or something. I don't remember, but CGI is getting to be more ridiculous, and I think they need to start realizing people nowadays want practical effects over CG, because otherwise it doesn't feel real enough.
Well, I mean, you look at something like Spielberg's Jaws, it would be absolutely terrible if it were made today, because you'd see everything from the beginning, and the shark would be really huge, and he'd be as terrible and awful as he could be, and so you'd be bored with him very quickly.
Well, I hate to say this, Bill, and if you haven't already heard about it, but next year we're going to be getting that new shark movie called Meg.
And why not? You know, why not? And I'm sure that we'll see lots of the shark up front and early, but what you don't see is much more frightening than what you do.
Yes. But to also say, another movie where you can definitely see the CGI is Deep Blue Sea. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but that had some CGI in it with the shark. Even though it was a very smart shark, but which I think, I want to say, when you actually kind of see the shark out of the water is actually practical, I want to say. But then again, I could be completely wrong. It has been a couple years since I've seen that film, but I do remember that the CGI is best seen when the shark is in the water.
My theory is that now, with the proliferation of information on the internet, when we can look up how any magic trick is done, including magic tricks in movies, that it would be smarter to make something that is magical to people and that they can't figure out how you did it. And you can't do that with any CGI. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people now say, oh, I want to know how they did that. So they Google it and they ruin it for themselves.
Yep.
But with a practical effect, you can sometimes get away with something and people would say, wow, I really believe that was real. And it gives you the experience.
I do agree with that. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to word this now. That guy from The Void.
The contortionist? Are you talking about the guy that can contort his body? Yeah, the contortionist. Yeah, that was crazy. I found this video on Instagram from one of the actors that was in the Void movie, and it was showing how he can contort his body in a very inhuman way, almost like you're
letting go of yourself, I guess.
Like it's like it looks like an illusion, but he's actually really contorting his body, and it was crazy. Like my jaw dropped when I was watching this, so I was like, I have to show Paul this, and I showed Paul, and he was just like, holy shit.
Yeah, like right at the very beginning, you see him just like give his body out, and I'm first thinking like this is some type of prop or whatever. They're just making a stupid video or whatever on Instagram. No, then the guy literally start like walking backwards and moving in like non-human ways, and it's just like, holy crap, like this guy should be in more horror movies.
Yeah.
And as much as I couldn't really get into The Void, because as me being part deaf, I kind of need subtitles to know what's going on, and unfortunately that movie didn't offer subtitles, so I kind of was getting bored with it. I was mainly just watching it for the practical effects and stuff like that, because I thought they did a really well done with that at least. So that's my intake.
The king of practical effects, of course, was Dick Smith, who did The Exorcist. and which has that great contortionist who walks backwards down the stairs, doing the spider walk, and
That's true.
you cannot beat practical effects in a human body moving in ways that seem not to be human. It's very, very creepy.
Agreed. And I think that's what would make more horror seem more real, is having those type of people in it, the ones that can actually move non-human, because then you're sitting in your chair like, how can somebody move this? Like, and if I saw something like this is gonna creep me out, rather than CGI where it's just like, this again.
Yeah, because we saw him doing this as a human, no, like not in makeup or anything. And then we watched the Void movie and we saw the creature that he was portraying, and we're like, wow.
Yeah, like he did it so well, where, yeah, this guy should get hired more. I'm just gonna put it that way.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he was like, if he was in, do you remember the guy, the old guy in The Unborn that contortioned himself and how he moved?
Movie.
Well, I'm just using it as a reference.
I remember.
I'm using it as a reference point because there was a
Maybe Bill might know.
There was a similar, there were similar movements of how the actor was in that movie in comparison to how the guy,
right?
the old gentleman guy that was in the wheelchair, he got possessed by the thing, the demon.
Right.
And his body started to contortion in like an inhuman way, and he started to move like the guy that I showed you.
Okay. I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I don't remember
I'll have to
really
point it out to you
caring
when
for
we're watching
Unborn.
it and show you what I mean.
I think I know which part you might be talking about, but yeah. Anyway, I don't want to get too off pace here, but okay. So Bill, so this is going back to A Haunted in Salem. So since you acted in that, now this is asking you as yourself, not like acting wise, but do you believe in real spirits?
Yes, I do. I'm a Christian, and I believe in the spiritual world. I believe that there's evil. I believe that there's good. What I don't believe in are humans who hang around being neither here nor there after they're dead. But I do believe that there's a spiritual realm, and I believe that there's good and evil in that realm, and that there's often battling going on that we don't know about.
That is true. Which the naked eye cannot see so much, but then we can almost
sense it in a way.
Yeah. Just by like our hair sticking up, goosebumps, that type of stuff.
Well, this is a very, very interesting field of research, and it gets back to, are we more than matter? For instance, a person who believes that we are absolutely nothing but the physical would say everything you just described, the sensing of another world, the hair standing up in the end, even your sense of consciousness, all of that is a function of neurons in your brain. And then a person who says, no, there's something else called the spirit would say, well, there is the brain, there is the physical, but there's something else that we can't identify. And it's a great debate. I don't know the answer more than anybody else. I know what I believe and chosen to believe. But it's fascinating to think about. But I think most people who like horror movies have the suspicion, at least, that there is such a thing as evil in the world, and that there are spirits in the world, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some experiences with, I'll just say the unknown, because I don't really know who could have done it otherwise, because, just like a real paranormal investigator would do, we would try to debunk it. Which, like, some of the times when my experience has happened, with a friend, of course, me and him would literally go, okay, was his sister just trying to play a prank, and somehow would manage to unlock the door and open the door and then run away? But we're like, no, Like, 'cause we would hear her run off, and then, because, you know, it's that old wooden floor that always got that sound of old wood and stuff, so there's a lot of weird things that I've experienced, so, it's always been a fascination to me, because I do remember I was never really a believer in it until I've had my own experiences, and then I was kind of like what you said, are we more than just matter, and is there really something else that is going on that we can't see, kind of deal. So yeah.
Since you opened the door to this, may I tell you why I actually enjoy playing evil people?
Yeah, go for it.
Because as a follower of Jesus, I believe that there is the evil one, or the devil, the great demon, Beelzebub, Old Scratch. I believe that. And I believe that I'm choosing my words carefully because I don't like to use cliches, so people get the idea of, the guy with the pitchfork and the tail, the underwood devil. But I believe that the devil, to you, for want of a better word, that his greatest weapon is for people to say, oh, there's no such thing. And so when I play evil, I take it seriously, and I want to play it so convincingly
that you make them believe.
Yeah, that their skin will crawl a little bit, and they'll think, I wonder if there really is evil in the world, and that's my way of calling the devil out and saying, you son of a bitch. I'm pulling the sheet off of you so people can see that you're there and can see what you can do to their lives if you run rampant in it. And to me, the signs of the devil running rampant in life are greed, selfishness, intolerance, just pure meanness. It doesn't even have to be, you don't have to be a serial killer. You could just be a hateful, mean, self-serving son of a bitch.
Now, we referring to like the 7 deadly sins? Yeah, that's true. Now, that like on the same line as like the 7 deadly sins, because that's what it almost seems like what you were kind of going with. Well, in a way, like greed, lust, envy,
wrath,
pride,
envy.
Yeah, if you've surrendered to those, I think the word sin gets thrown around. To me, if you consider your own needs to be more important than anyone else's, including the people you love, that is sin. It doesn't really matter what the need is. If I got a cake in the one piece of chocolate cake left, and I know my kid loves cake, but I'm going to eat that damn cake first so that little son of a bitch can't get the cake, then I put my own needs ahead of his, and that is a sin. So the sin's not gluttony, the sin is selfishness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I've got to go and see this movie, even though my family really wants me to be home tonight, but I really want to go see this movie, and I'm going to go anyway just because it's what I want to do, and damn it, I deserve it, that is sin. So that's how I define it.
Okay.
It's selfishness, pure selfishness. It's narcissism. It's considering yourself to be the center of the universe.
That is true, and we almost see that a lot. Well, I kind of see it a lot anyway, but maybe that's because I work in a place where it seems like everybody's got to put themselves before others, I guess. And I don't know. I mean, maybe not. I know because of my history of being bullied back in the day has turned me into, well, I don't really want to say it this way, but I mean, it did kind of turn me into like a weird, you could say, monster, because, when you get picked on for God knows how long, like for, let's see, so if you're 5 years old, you're going to be what, probably kindergarten. So, and when you get out of middle school, you're going to be 12 years old. So you're looking at like 8 years of your life being treated like you're somebody different. Yeah, that's gonna change the way you look at the world and everybody around you. I know.
I'm with you, Paul. We're freaks.
Yes.
We're freaks.
Yeah.
That's okay. The world needs freaks, you know?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. I mean, me and Tessa are known as the creepy couple, so every time I hear that, I'm like, well, at least I'm doing my job. At least we're doing our job. Like,
we're just being ourselves. We're not being something that we're not.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, like, Bill, I don't know if I don't think I did when we were talking email, but, did I ever tell you how me and Tessa first met, too? Like, how we... No? Okay. Well, Tessa's gonna help me this, because I always love having her explain the very ending, because it just sounds much more better out of her lips than mine. But, so, the story goes, and I'm sorry, listeners, I know you've probably heard this like maybe 3 or 4 times now, and you're probably not gonna stop hearing this, so I apologize. Anyway, Bill, my friend, well, at the time, or whatever, we know a friend of ours that does photography for, like, modeling and stuff, and is known as one of her foxes, and Tessa's known as one of her vixens, and, she had a scene one day that she wanted to do for, like, Faces of Death, where she wanted to have me, like, look like I was murdered outside. So we were going to use, like, the snow to make it all bloody and stuff, and I was just going to pretty much have it look like I got murdered from, like, a medieval double-bladed axe. And unfortunately, because it rained, it took all the snow away, so we couldn't do the outside anymore. So we ended up going inside, and this is when Tessa takes over.
So Allison gets a hold of me and we set up a date, and I actually show up on the date that Paul is there too, and like he says, they're working on doing the Faces of Death shoot, and I was there as a new client to shoot my photo set. And what happened was Allison and I went out, we did my photo set outside, and it was a really windy day, so it worked really well using the elements with my photo shoot, because I had this really pretty blue scarf and it was blowing in the wind and everything, and it was really cool. But anyways, so we get done with my shoot, we go back to Allison's house, and we go back and Paul and all of them are there, and Allison's like, well, how about, since we can't murder you outside, Paul, how about we murder you inside and in the bathroom and in the bathtub? And then Allison's like, well, all we need now is someone to murder you. And he volunteers. And I was like, I'll do it.
No hesitation.
No hesitation. I was like, I'll do it. I'll murder him.
So I'm just like, okay, whatever. So pretty much what I had to do was they wanted me to, like, kind of be in the bathtub and then out of the bathtub. So I kind of, like, had to bend my back into the bathtub, like I got kind of, like, I fell into
knocked into it.
Yeah, like, knocked into it, and then, like, they poured the blood all over me, and
blood
I'm just sitting there, like, or laying there, like, oh, God, I really hope they, like, hurry up, because I don't know how much longer I can, like, be in this position. So then next thing you know, Tessa's grabbing my medieval battle axe that I have, and
I have blood, like, all over my hands, like halfway up my arms, like blood splattered, like I've been hacking away at him. And a lot of the pictures that Allison took of the two of us were really, really awesome. I'll have to have Paul send you a couple to show you, but like, we just vibed so well. We did so well together in that shoot that after doing that shoot together, we became friends on Facebook, and like Paul had mentioned earlier, over like a 6-month time span, we became best friends. Like, we became really close, practically, you know, inseparable in a way. And then we decided after that we would take it to the next level, and well, here we are.
Almost a year later, so.
Yeah. Next month it'll be a year that we've been together.
Yeah.
As a couple.
You guys are so cute.
Oh, geez, here we go. the last guy that we interviewed, after his interview, we started talking for like another hour and a half afterward, and he just goes, Paul, don't ever get rid of her. And I'm like...
He's like, you better keep her, Paul. I'm telling you, you better keep her.
So
she's a keeper.
So I'm like, after the phone call, I'm like, what is it that makes people just go, don't get rid of you? And it's just like, I'm not planning on it, because everybody knows if I do like hurt you or get rid of you, you already know our one friend is gonna come and murder me and kill me anyway. So
that's right. Hey, Paul, how old are you?
I'll be 30 in October.
Okay, so you got a midlife crisis coming up. I've already been through it. And probably if an older guy's talking to you, that's what they're saying is, don't screw up. When you go crazy in the head, get a damn motorcycle. Don't screw up your relationship. That's what they're saying.
Right.
Because Tessa's worth it. I can tell that just listening to you guys. I agree with him. I'm going to add my voice too and say, you better not mess this up.
All right, Bill. Well, then in that case, if you want, I can sign some type of paper that says, Bill, I give permission to Bill Oberst Jr. to come beat the crap out of me if I screw things up.
And I can bring the fireman's axe that I used in Dissecting Massacre.
Oh, yes.
That's not encouragement to screw up. That's a warning.
That's a warning.
That was a real fireman's axe, and you have no idea how much fun it is to swing a real fireman's axe and chop down a door with it. It was quite a rush.
Well, hang on a second, Bill. Don't.
well, to add to what Grant said, he's like it's very seldom nowadays that you find someone that just vibes with you so well, and he's like, she loves horror. There's not many women out there that love horror, and she loves horror. He's like, you better hang on to her.
You better not screw this up. Okay.
Right.
He's gotten multiple threats. He's like, do not screw up your relationship with Tessa. She's like perfect for you. Don't screw this up, man.
Tessa, men are stupid. You know that.
Yeah. I've had my fair share.
Stupid.
I've had my fair share of dealing with stupid men, but
yeah.
But I believe that Paul is intelligent, and he's not gonna screw what he has up with me. We've already had like this kind of talk anyways, and he knows what he has with me he will never have with anyone else, and that I am the perfect woman for him.
I love it.
And that is kind of one of the reasons why we started this podcast too, just because me and Tessa here love horror so much that we were just like, what if we did a podcast to help make us more socialized, and because we
talk about our love of horror that we have.
Yeah. So then that's what we did. I mean, our first episode isn't the greatest, but it would...
But we've grown since then, and people just love, like, our energy that we have with each other when we do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you might as well throw
natural.
in our, as you say, our son, which is the cat, because...
I have a cat. He's 12 years old. I've had him since he was 4 weeks old. He's pretty much my baby. I pretty much raised him. His mother was sadly killed by a truck driver, and I bottle fed him and everything, and he's grown very attached to Paul, and he's never been so taken by a male figure before. Merle's usually pretty protective of me. He usually doesn't allow another male near me, but he just absolutely loves Paul.
Yeah, like...
Which says a lot.
Yeah, like, Tessa can even vouch for this, where sometimes I can get home from work and I'll go on my laptop to work on something, whether it be podcast or writing for my book or whatever, and then Merwin had to always jump in my lap and lay down on the keyboard on my arms, and I'm like, Merwin, your daddy is trying to get stuff done.
And he's just like,
Nope. And then he'll have to bug me to go out now. That's a new thing now. He liked being outside. He was always used to being indoors. So now he's got to bark or meow, a.k.a. bark like a dog to go out now. So it's been quite an interesting thing. So yeah, he's like my baby boy in a way, I guess now, since
he's like our kid with fur, for lack of a better word.
I have 2 Dachshunds who right now are staring at me saying, "We can go out now, right?" So I understand.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think you'll have fun with these next questions, Bill, to be honest, because...
You've already technically answered one of them.
Some of them, yeah, but we can get more into detail with it. But, yeah, so Bill, my question is, how was the experience when you were on set with Ditch Day?
And for your listeners who may not be familiar, this is a movie which was originally called Ditch. It was retitled Ditch Day Massacre. And you can look it up on IMDb. I believe it's online in various places. And I played Vic, who's a gentleman whose daughter was killed by a drunk driver. So he comes after the drunk driver, now a teenager, and her friends when they are ditching school. That's the title, Ditch Day Massacre. And his chosen weapon is indeed a fireman's axe. It was a lot of fun. It really was. Chopping down the door was great. And I really liked this role because my character was an ordinary guy, and he was traumatized by this event that happened, and the only way that he could continue to live, he thought, is if he concentrated his whole energy on getting revenge. So the beginning of the movie, he's holed up in this abandoned house, and he's working out, and he's just totally ready to do this, and it's on the anniversary of his wife's death. It was a fun role. I really enjoyed doing that movie.
Yeah, we could definitely tell.
Oh yeah, we could tell that you were really into your role as Vic. Like you portrayed your character so well that it was believable.
Yeah, which I think I even told Tessa, like, you do realize, like, this is probably would be me if you and our kid were ever taken away from me, right? And she's like, yeah.
Well, that's the interesting question, we tend to, like, if it's a revenge killing, like, this guy murdered this fella, and then you learn, oh, well, that fella killed his kid. You cut him a little more slack.
Right.
Should we do that? Is it still wrong? What would you do if it happened to you? So the movie kind of, in a fun way, touches on some of that. The director was Joe Hendricks, a young director who does a lot of commercials in Europe, and he likes little weird touches, like he had me eat apples throughout the movie for no reason at all. The first movie I ever did with Joe was a short in which he had me wrestle a chicken in a tuxedo. So he likes odd, strange things, and that was fun.
Yeah, that would actually, I think, the next question would, I don't know if you can get any more detailed into it than what you just already said, but this is your turn. Number 12.
Number 12?
Mm-hmm.
What did the apples symbolize to you when you were playing as Vic?
Personally, for me, because I love, scriptural stories, it was the Garden of Eden, and clearly that's what the apple meant to me.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay, me too. Yeah, okay, then we're together on that. I didn't think it needed any explanation. I haven't seen the final release edit, but in one version of the edit, they went back and had an overdub of a little girl saying, "Daddy, climb up higher, give me an apple," which I didn't like at all. I liked it better when it was unexplained. I like letting the audience figure things out.
Yeah, they definitely took that out.
Yeah.
To me, that's what it meant.
Okay. I do know probably one part, Bill, that you're probably not going to be too fond about because it was actually taken out in Europe. So, listeners, once again, I'm going to say this right now. This is a spoiler alert because if you haven't seen it yet, then you might want to just skip ahead like a minute or so. You might want to do that. So, Bill, that one scene where it was you and your kid, when you finally learned that the other guy there, what was his name? Was it Norman or something? I'm trying to remember.
Are you talking about the cop?
Not the cop. It was
you
Vic's son
Oh,
there.
Vic's son.
Anyway,
What
it
was
was
it,
right
Matt?
when. It was right when they were in the garage scene, our favorite scene.
Oh yeah, the weed whacker.
The weed whacker and the
Yeah,
chainsaw.
and the chainsaw.
They actually, I guess, had to edit that out, Bill, in overseas.
In Europe. They
Because it was too
censored-
violent?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they censored it. Like,
Yeah,
they
they
took
censored
it.
it.
Well, the original idea on that was to use a weed whacker because Joe, the director, who likes eccentric things, thought, I've never seen anyone killed with a weed whacker. So we had the dummy hung up with all the guts inside, but the weed whacker actually wouldn't cut through the shirt well enough. It was just kind of catching in it. So one of the producers went to Home Depot, bought a chainsaw, we used it, then we cleaned it up and took it back and got a refund. That's a typical indie producer thing. But it was supposed to be just a weed whacker, and then it turned into the chainsaw.
Yeah, because I think it was Megan that said that they had to go to like a hardware store and
Yeah, because they were trying to use different like lawn or power tools
or something
to try to accomplish what you guys ended up doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when Megan was telling us that Tessa's favorite scene was censored out, she was just like,
I was like, I can't believe they would do that. Why?
Well, Tessa, that's the weird thing. Like, in America, nudity, particularly, like, non-sexual nudity, is absolutely, usually forbidden and shocking, and violence is great. And in Europe, it's exactly the opposite. Like, guts spilling out of, a guy's intestines fall on the floor, we're like, oh, yeah, sure, whatever. But in Europe, that's a horrible thing.
Yep.
And the same thing with the human body. In Europe, it's like, yeah, whatever. And here we're like, oh my God. It's really funny, the difference in the cultures in that way.
I know it's probably horrible, but I couldn't help but like crack up a little bit on that scene, especially when you said like that was foreplay or whatever. I kind of cracked up a little bit. I was like, oh my goodness, he just said that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because like he's teaching the kid how to do it. He's saying like, here, see, I don't know if they left it in there, but we filmed a little thing where Zach, the wonderful actor who played my son, where he and I are looking at each other afterwards, and I'm kind of like nodding at him, like, good job.
Yep.
They did keep that in. You guys had an apple together and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, see, it's nice. It's
like father
teaching,
and son bonding.
Teaching the kid how to fish. It's nice.
Yeah, exactly. Different type of fishing, but yeah.
But it was a great scene. It was like definitely one of my favorite scenes of like the whole movie. I also thought it was interesting how each time that you murdered someone, like the two kids screwing around in the bedroom, the goth chick, the kid that was fooling around with the goth chick, how you folded their clothes afterwards, like neatly, and put it with their bodies and stuff, and oh my God, and the frickin' strap-on dildo with the goth girl, I lost it. I was like, oh my God.
With the hand.
Vic is very neat. He likes things orderly.
Yeah, we definitely gathered that about Vic, but it was great. It was very interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I can tell that you are going to enjoy Circus of the Dead because the killer in that also has some strange idiosyncrasies. But I agree. Vic was a very neat sort of killer. And I think they might have edited this out, but Lynn Lowry, a wonderful actress whom I love, I don't know if they left the kiss in there. Did I kiss her after she was dead in the version you saw?
I think so. I want to say yes. You're talking. Are you talking about the goth girl?
No, the neighbor who.
The neighbor. Yeah. Yes, they left the kiss in.
Yeah, they did.
Yep, you did kiss her. Yeah.
Because Joe said, "I've never seen anybody French kiss a dead body." And so I went to Lynn, who was in the makeup trailer, and Lynn's been in a lot of great horror movies. She's like a legend of horror. And so I said, Lynn, Joe wants me to kiss you when you're dead. Is that okay? And she wheeled around to the makeup chair and she said, only if it's French.
That's great.
Amazing.
So I don't know how much they left in, but Joe really had me go for it. I mean, there was tons of plenty. And so she had to be dead because she couldn't move at all. And so when we were finished, she did me the ultimate favor among the crew. She said, "Wow, Bill's a really good kisser." And I was like, yes. That was a lot of fun to do too. That scene. And Pandy Suicide, who played the goth girl,
Yeah.
she amazing to work with. I loved it.
Nice. Yeah, I was trying to figure out where she's from, because when I saw the word suicide, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I don't know why it was bringing me to things like Suicide Girls or whatever, but I was like,
yeah. There's a whole group of girls who are models who are known as the Suicide Girls, very goth. Their studios in Hollywood, and they take pictures and, you know, have pretty big following. Pandy's got a big following herself.
And that's pretty sweet. I'm trying to think. So when we were also interviewing the people from Dissecting, both the writers and producer, which was Daniel and Ryan Coughlin and Megan Waters, they were also saying, like, when you were welding the fireman's act, that you broke like 4 doors, I think it was.
Well, yeah. So here's the thing, guys. One, never let a film crew use your house. Let me just say it once more. Never let a film crew use your house. Especially an indie film crew, because they'll say they're not going to break stuff, but they are. Well, and then, number 2, actors are sometimes clumsy. And I am notoriously clumsy. Anytime there's a fight scene, somebody's going to get hurt. If I'm swinging something around, something's going to get broken. So, yeah, the gag on this was, the kids are in there making out, and I'm supposed to chop through the door, stick my head in, and then come in and kill them. And so we had a fake door, but it was we're in somebody's actual house, so they hung the fake door for me to bang through, and I'm supposed to just hit the doorknob, knock the doorknob off, and not hit the door frame.
Uh-oh.
And it was really tight where we were filming it. I said, guys, the axe is going to hit the door frame. They're like, no, it's going to be fine. It's like, guys, it's going to hit the door frame in the moment, because, you know, I get worked up. And sure enough, boom, there we go. I think they ended up replacing the door frame. So, yeah, an actor who really gets into character in a real fireman's axe is not always a safe combination.
I think I accidentally skipped over this question, which I'm going to let you take. Maybe we've already did it, but I really don't think we did it.
11?
11.
How did you prep yourself to get into character for your role as Vic?
That was pretty easy for me because, like everybody else, you know, I have people I love, animals I love, and I just thought, what if someone had, through their own stupidity, and even worse, if they're intoxicated or high, killed someone or something that I love? How would I react? And so Joe Hendrick and I, the director, talked about this, and we agreed that, you know, you would go apeshit. Even if you had been, you know, the most normal person in the world, you'd go apeshit. And that's why Joe added this bit at the beginning, which really, really helped the character for me, is that he's been completely preparing for this. He's doing military push-ups, you know, he's taking cold showers with a bucket. He's just like, he's turned himself from this mild-mannered businessman into this hardened warrior so that he can go do this thing. That's what it was for me.
Yeah, because once again, I want to say it was either Daniel or Megan that said that when you were Vic, it took you a little bit to like come out of character as well, from what I think they said.
Yeah, I hope that that's true. Otherwise, it wouldn't register as real on screen.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I guess we're gonna have to do this again. Do you want to do the last question, or do you want me to do it again?
That's 13, right?
Yep, Lucky 13.
Hey, before you do the 13th question, I must ask, did they tell you about the dog getting into the blood on the set of Did?
No, they did not.
No, they did not. Why don't you tell us about it?
Speaking of never let a film crew use your house, I think that the house was rented, I think, from a cousin of someone involved with the movie. There was some family connection there. And the rule was, don't let the dog get anywhere near the filming, and you can only use certain rooms. So we had plastic tape wall to wall so we wouldn't get blood anywhere. So the dog gets upstairs, gets in the fake blood, rolls in the fake blood, and then traipses all over the house. So we got bloody footprints and a bloody dog, and the fake blood doesn't come immediately out. Like, you can't wash it out of a dog. You just have to let it grow out. So, yeah. So now you have to say, hey, there's kind of blood all over your house, and the dog, well, he's pink for a while.
Speaking of pink, let's take a second and remember this film back in the 80s, if I'm remembering the year correctly on this film, Suspiria. Look at the pink blood of that film, where you really could see the pink blood, which I crack up every time seeing, with the lady that hung herself, and there's blood dripping out of her mouth. That is so pink, it's like, you just know it's not real. But I just had to throw that in there.
You, speaking of random memories, you make me remember that in my first year in LA, I was doing everything. I did a horror movie where I played a guy who hung himself in an attic, and I actually passed out. It was like close to 100 degrees in the attic, and we were using a noose, a real noose, being an indie horror film, and, you know, I had my feet on the box, and I was supposed to, like, sag just enough to put pressure on the noose so it would look real.
Right.
And the next thing I know, the DP is slapping my face saying, Bill, oh my God, are you okay? So yeah, I had passed out in my underwear in somebody's attic in Burbank. Welcome to LA.
Jeez,
Okay, go ahead with the 13th question.
Okay, since you kind of answered this a little bit before, I'm going to ask it anyways, and I want you to kind of elaborate on it a little bit more. How fun was it for you to swing that fireman's axe in Ditch Day? I mean...
It was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun because usually in movies you're dealing with props like the scythe in Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies, and you don't want to break the props because the prop master is always looking at you like, you better not break this. And on indie films, sometimes they'll hand you a real prop. Now, if it's a real knife, and, you know, Tessa's on the table and they're handing me a real knife just going, okay, I'm like, yeah, but no. But if it's a door, sure, let me at it. So, yeah, it was fantastic to use a real prop like that and to feel the heft of it in your hands. It also made me think of the frightening power that someone would have. If they're coming through your door with an axe, you don't have much time to react.
no.
It, like, bam, and you're in. Oh, it was a heck of a lot of fun to do that.
Would you do it again?
Yes, absolutely, I would do it again. I love swinging the axe. I love that character. Yeah, I would definitely do it again.
So is it safe to assume that the fireman's axe is like your favorite weapon you've ever wielded in a movie?
It is, and I made a list once for a horror site, and I came up with about 60 weapons that I could count that I've used, everything except an egg beater, I think, that I've used to threaten people or to kill them. Yeah, my second favorite was a meat cleaver. But the trouble with a prop meat cleaver is if your hands are slick with blood, it can fly out of your hands, which it did. That was in a movie called Dismal.
Yeah, anything that normally a prop, anyway, when you have something very, I don't want to say slimy, but it's very easy to make your hand slippery as it is. Yeah, good luck to holding on to anything, really.
And that film was shot in Georgia, and another peril of fake blood is if it's got any sort of sugar component to it, the flies love it. So usually I'm in a wife beater, And, I'm dripping with blood, and I was eat up with flies in Georgia on that set.
Oh, damn. That's no good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it builds character.
yeah. I mean, then we can always go with we could always create another movie where it's like The Fly Man or something. Not like The Fly, which is actually a really good movie too, but who knows, maybe one day we might get one where this guy is covered in flies because, like you were saying, this guy might have way too much sugar on him, so the flies just want to num at him. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. The weapons aside, for me, the most success I've had being frightening is just being very, very unnaturally close to people. If somebody really gets up in your space, like very, very close to you, it's creepy. And then if they do that and they speak in a very normal, sort of low tone of voice, and say, Paul, I've been wanting to have a conversation with you, if that's okay. Or maybe they're stroking your face. That's really creepy. So that's the kind of thing that I've learned doing horror movies, is if you really want to creep somebody else, just stay calm, do not scream, just move very, very close to them and appear to be very affectionate, but let your voice drop down, just like this, and just say, I hope you don't mind if I talk to you for a minute. And they'll be really creeped out.
Hey, Tessa, I want to go have
There
a
you
word with you.
Tessa ain't falling for that stuff.
No. Not with me, anyway.
Yeah.
Not with anyone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna be armed. I'm not stupid. I've seen enough horror movies to know.
Yeah, why doesn't the girl ever kick the guy in the balls, Tessa? Because that's how you stop a male.
I don't know. I asked the same question. Just like with certain movies where the girl will run the opposite direction of the front door and run up the stairs instead of run out the freaking front door. I'm just kind of I'm like, what are you doing? Just knee the guy in the balls and go out the front door and run like hell.
Right, if he's got testicles, that will drop him temporarily. I don't care if it's from Mars or from hell. If it has testicles, you can drop it with just one knee. There it is. But then I guess the scene would be pretty short.
Yeah, that is true. But then again, wouldn't that create it so that the guy's more pissed off now? Like, oh, you're gonna get it now, kind of thing.
I would be, yeah. I would like to see that. I love intelligent women victims. If you're gonna have a woman victim in a horror film, which sounds kind of troubling to say, but there are a lot of women victims, I like them to be smart and to be able to do things like kick the guy in the balls. He is gonna get more pissed off, you're right.
Yeah, like Sigourney Weaver, she knew exactly what needed to be done. Her role in acting is, I mean, to this day, I believe every time she acts in those Alien films and everything else that she does. I mean, she's such a great actor. She's very believable. While now you got females that trip over nothing and. I don't know. I mean, Bill, so I know it's not on here, but I'll just throw it out here too. But so in your own opinion, how do you like horror nowadays compared to the past, if you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, there's a lot of good stuff that's being done. Get Out was fantastic. There's a lot of creative good stuff being done. So I would tend to think that maybe we're on the beginning of another semi-golden age of horror. I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too, because, I mean, I'm kind of definitely not liking movies nowadays where you can predict the ending, and when it happens, you're like, I thought it was coming.
Surprised me. That's the main flaw, I think, in modern day horror, except for a lot of indie stuff, is, not predictable, but people want to be safe and they don't want, you spending so much money on these movies, they don't want to take any chances, and so they give everything away in the trailer, so all your plot twists are right there and there's no surprise.
Yeah, and that ruins the entire movie. But
for me too, but they're afraid that if they just tease you with the trailer, you're not going to come see it. instead of trusting the audience and just giving them a hint.
Well, it almost feels like some movies too, like people can tell you, like with the new Alien film, they make the audience feel like you're stupid, and you know, we know we're not stupid because we're gonna catch on to the dumb things that these guys shouldn't even be doing, like you know, landing on a new world with no detective equipment on themselves, and yet they're, you know, the bad things are going to happen to them, and then they're like, oh, maybe we should have had some type of protective equipment on us.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's just some films where I'm just like, once again, I'm just like, man, I don't know if this is like bad for horror or if this is really good, but I mean, I guess I just love horror too much where some movies that can be bad are still good to me, as long as it's done right.
Oh, me too. I love things like Gargoyles, the TV movie from my youth, which, you know, the suits aren't great, but one of the gargoyles rides a horse, and that's just pretty damn cool. And so I'm good with the whole movie and can overlook a lot of stuff just because I like the gargoyle on the horse. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, what you just said just made me tilt my head, like gargoyle on a horse.
See, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, like that's definitely something I've never seen. So yeah,
I like the 31 Frankenstein. I like for the one scene where Karloff silently reaches up for the light, and it's the first time he's ever seen light, and you can see in his eyes that this is something wonderful and magical, and then they shut the damn light off in his face and start torturing him with flames.
Yeah.
And it's such a metaphor for life, you know?
Yep.
It's something beautiful. Nope, you get flames instead.
Right.
And there's a lot wrong with the movie. You can see the backdrops folded in some places, but I can overlook it all because there's that one beautiful moment.
Right. That's like when we were interviewing Grant, I was telling him my own opinion about his latest CD release for his Halloween music, and I'm like, you know, I didn't really feel like this was like Shadow Sympathy. He's like, dude, I got a good reason for that. It's because this is what I was going through. I was going through like the divorce and stuff like that, and then I'm like, oh,
that explains
it, and I'm like, I forgive you for that now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's that way when you're an actor, any kind of performer. You can look back on stuff you did and go, oh, you know, that's when I was cheating. That's when this was happening. And if something bad was happening in your life, you can see it affected in your performance.
Yeah, and it does take a toll on you, because, I mean, I don't know, like, with you, Bill, but, I mean, I bet there's times where you kind of look back and you're like, man, I remember when I was not in my head doing this, or something like that, or this was, like, one of the best times because life was doing good and stuff, and, I mean, yeah, I mean, we all criticize ourselves in a way where we try to, like you were saying earlier, we learn from our mistakes, and that's the best way to do it.
That's right. There are movies that I did where I've got one look that's fake, and I know it's fake because I really wasn't ready for that take, and the rest of the performance may be okay, but for me, I don't watch the movie because there's that one take that I know isn't true. But it embarrasses me so much that I remember, don't do that again.
Don't do it again. Yeah.
Well, you guys have been really great to have me. Thank you so much. This is just a fantastic conversation.
Well, thank you for...
You're welcome. Thank you for, like, giving us your time. I mean, it's amazing to actually be talking to an actor that we actually really both enjoy watching in films, and you're just a really awesome person and a great human being, and it's just been really great talking to you. And
yeah, and Bill, if you ever come our way to Vermont, me and Tessa will definitely have to take you to Silver Lake so you can experience it yourself.
This Silver Lake looks like a beautiful place. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And check out Circus of the Dead and Coyote, two of your listeners, that's probably the two most disturbing things I've done for true horror people.
Now, is Circus of the Dead out yet, or?
Yeah, it's out.
Okay. Do you know? Is it on Amazon or anything? Do you know where people could possibly find it?
Yeah. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's got mostly fantastic reviews. One of the best reviewed things I've done. But it's a little bit offensive and very disturbing.
Okay, well, all right. Speaking of reviews, I don't know now. I have to say it, but when it comes to certain things with reviews, and Bill, you're more than welcome to give your opinion as well, and Tessa, same with you. But when it comes to reviews now, with either it being a movie, game, whatever, I really don't like to read them because sometimes, well, let me rephrase that. I don't really like to read them because I am so damn picky with what I even watch and listen to that everybody's different with everything. And people don't have to remember. People are either going to love it or hate it. And I mean, like, I'm trying to think of a good example right now. Like, everybody that I know, they never cared for Cabin in the Woods. I love Cabin in the Woods. Maybe because the stoner actually is the smartest one out of the bunch, maybe. I don't know why. I just know that it was something very unique in my own opinion. But, I mean, I had a blast watching Cabin in the Woods. But yeah, Bill, do you have anything to say about reviews at all?
Yeah, I do. Is that when people write reviews, one of the things that really helps me as a viewer is I don't need to know the whole plot. Many times they'll say, this happens and this happens, and then Tessa goes into the kitchen, and Tessa comes back from the kitchen, but Paul didn't really know she was. I don't need really any of that. But what I need is the idea behind the movie and the feeling that you got from watching it. I think that's the most helpful things. Like, Cabin in the Wood made me feel this. It brought up these images in my mind. It seemed to be about this idea. But that's less, I don't see that as often as I see, in this movie, this, and this happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, it's almost like you have to give out the whole movie in the review while, like, not really saying how you really felt about it. You're just like...
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I want to know, like, how did it make them feel? And that's much more important to me than, I think some of the cinematography was off. And, well, of course, some of the cinematography's off because it's an indie movie.
Right.
And all the acting's not going to be fantastic. But how did it make you feel? If
right.
you're taking the time to write about it. So that's what I'd like to know. Whether they like it or hate it, they can say, I really did not like this movie because it made me feel this. I can totally respect that.
Yeah. I just feel like a lot of reviewers, or the one that I really love, is the reviewers that are not in the genre, and they got a bash on it. Those are my favorite ones to read, where they're not really into horror, but they got told to review it anyway. Those are the fun
Exactly.
ones.
I have had those. I've had those who say, this was a total piece of disgusting trash. Everyone was murdered, and there was blood flowing, and it was dark. And I'm like, dude.
Yeah, there's no point to this. Why everybody got murdered? Blah blah. It's just like, oh boy.
Do you even know what genre? That would be like reviewing a romantic comedy movie and saying, well, everything just ended up well, and the boy ended up getting the girl. Yeah.
That's the freaking point.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe you should have a website that says that'sthefrickin'point.com. That's exactly right, Paul. Like, every genre has its rules.
Yes. Just like, especially in a horror film when it comes with found footage, which, Bill, I'll have to send you the link to it. But I was in a short with a horror film. I was the known cameraman who always died. But I mean, I showed Tessa it the other night too. She loved it. That's actually going to be an episode I want to do. I want to sit down with some of my friends and review that short. And I know when it gets to my tale, I'm going to have to be like, okay, you can tell me that my acting sucked or something. I'll take it. I know, like, whatever. But found footage doesn't really have any rules compared to something like this day. Right? Because with found footage, you kind of have a little bit more freedom, per se. Because I mean, Bill, you can correct me, but have you not been in a found footage film at all?
Oh yeah, I've done found footage, a couple of them. Blackwater Vampire, and the one that I starred in was Children of Sorrow. Okay, I played a cult leader, and the whole thing is done with found footage. The problem with found footage sometimes is that there's a shot you really want, but you got to justify the POV.
That is true.
But other than that, you're right. There aren't as many rules in that genre. Almost anything can happen.
Yeah, and I'll just give you a little taste of like the film that I'm in, but it was called Dead Static. It was based off of 3 locations here in Vermont that are classified as haunted. And the first tale was called Emily's Bridge. The second tale is called Greenmount Cemetery. And the third one that I'm in is called Pittsford Haunted Hell. But I mean, in my own opinion, I enjoyed it because technically you could say it was like my first time ever acting for like a film, even though it was found footage. But I still had a blast. I still talk with some of the people that I've did that film with, and then the other people who like actually wrote, directed it, and all that stuff. They dropped me and 2 other people off of the face of the earth because of unknown reason beyond our control, I guess is the best way I'm going to say it. Because I really don't know why they stopped talking to us at all. I just woke up one day and noticed that they're no longer on my Facebook and stuff, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know what I did to you, but whatever. I'm not like gonna cry about it, but I would like to know what the reason behind why you just had to pull a dick move. So, but I play as the cameraman who is filming this girl, or this lady who we got an interview for the Pittsford Haunted House, and we were trying to like get shown where this ghostly figure appears in the window, and then that's when all hell breaks loose, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'll definitely have to send you that, see what you thought of it, and yeah. Tessa, is there anything else you want to ask Bill real quick? If not, Bill, real quick, if people wanted to learn more about your upcoming films or books and stuff, where can people find you?
They can find me on all the social media that there is as Bill Oberst Jr. Twitter, Facebook, all of it, Instagram. It's Bill Oberst Jr. And if you can't remember how to spell Oberst, if you look up, this is not particularly a good thing, but if you look up creepy torso actor, I am the main result, I think. And this happened because there were a string of horror movies in which I had my shirt off because they thought that it would be even creepier because I have this kind of skeletal body. And so I got identified as the creepy torso actor on Google somehow. So, or Bill Oberst Jr. will work too.
That works as well. And do you have anything else, Bid?
No, actually, I've had a really fun time doing this interview with you, Bill, and I hope you had as much fun as we did, and that you're a really great actor and phenomenal person to talk to.
Keep doing what you're doing.
And keep doing what you're doing because we enjoy it.
And Bill, I will say you are always welcome back onto our podcast whenever. If you even feel like you need to talk about some film that you're in or whatever, just give us the message.
We can help you promote it.
And we can help you promote it.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much. I'll be thinking about you up there, and I hope you have a great rest of the summer.
Yeah, you as well.
You as well.
I'm going to go walk my Dachshunds. They'll be happy about that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they will.
I think our cat is, going to be trying to meow to go outside anyways.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But, yeah, Bill, thanks again. And for everybody else, Bill, if you wouldn't mind saying it with us like we always do when we end a episode, but what we like to do is say, stay scary at the count of 3. So if you wouldn't mind saying that with us.
Of course.
All right. You want to start it off?
1, 2, 3.
Stay
Stay
scary.
scary.